You're now listening to All Hog Sports, covering all Arkansas Razorback sports, such as football, basketball, baseball, and much more. Now, here's your host for today's show, Sam Stimson.
Now, this Saturday, Arkansas travels to Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa to take on the number 2 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide on CBS at 2:30. Now, Alabama is 9-1 with a loss to Texas A&M. Arkansas is 7-3 with a key win over Texas A&M and a neutral site. So, common opponent there for the Hogs, but there's a lot of common opponents that Alabama will probably end up beating, like Auburn, who Arkansas lost to, and such. But anyway, the Tide are still a good team this year. You know, they started off number 1 and moved back a little bit in the AP poll, but they've sit at number 2 for a while now. The Crimson Tide, though, they have been playing a lot of games close. You know, this is not the same Crimson Tide team that I really think, like, dominates teams. Like, against LSU, they only won by 6 points. And I know Arkansas just barely beat LSU, too. But with how that LSU team was, and Alabama was 28-point favorites in that game and only won by 6, I think there's some more optimism in Fayetteville about this game, but I still think the consensus is, man, this is Bama, this is tough. Alabama favored by 21 points here. Now, the Arkansas offense, they have to be able to establish a run game. Facing up against a 3-4 Alabama set defense, they have to be able to establish a run game, and that includes KJ Jefferson. Anytime that Arkansas is going to have success on the ground, I think it's going to revolve around KJ Jefferson. I mean, Bryce is a rushing first coordinator, so it makes sense why Arkansas runs the ball a heavy amount. But KJ Jefferson, 107 attempts for 474 yards, includes some sacks in there with 5 touchdowns. And then you guys on the bench like Dominique Johnson, Raheem Sanders, Traylon Smith. So number 1 for Arkansas to win this game is establish a game on the ground rushing. Number 2 would be get the ball to number 16, the bad man himself, Traylon Burks. 51 catches for 796 yards and 8 touchdowns. This guy is basically automatic, and he's going to get you plus yardages on about any play. So Arkansas needs to force the ball into Traylon Burks' hands and really have him control the game and tempo on offense. Now, Alabama has a lot of 4- or 5-star corners, such as guys like Jordan Battle in the safety, Josh Joby, the secondary guys. So they're going to be covering Burks tight, so it's going to be important for KJ Jefferson to make smart passes and complete passes. He's got 1,990 yards, so he'll likely hit the 2K mark. This game, he's 65 completion percent rating, which is what the team actually aimed at preseason, and he's got a very good touchdown-interception ratio of 17-3, one of those interceptions being off a Hail Mary. Now, Alabama runs a pro-style offense, just previewing that one. Alabama running a pro-style offense with quarterback Bryce Young. Quarterback Bryce Young, he's one of the favorites for the Heisman Award. He's very talented. Young having 3,025 yards on the year with 33 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That touchdown number is huge, as the Tide really haven't ran the ball that much because they don't have that many healthy backs. Now, Brian Robinson Jr., their single healthy back, he's a tank. 164 carries for 823 yards and 14 touchdowns. So the Tide just have a very effective offense that Arkansas is going to have to stop. And I'm concerned about the secondary in this game against Arkansas. If Arkansas wants to have a chance of getting the upset, Alabama has 2 guys over 700 yards receiving, that being Jameson Williams, 51 catches for 1,028 yards, and then 10 touchdowns. And then you got John Mechie III, 67 catches for 722 yards. Now, some other playmakers for the Tide on defense include Henry Toto, linebacker. Arkansas faced him last year against Tennessee. He's the team leading guy in tackles. He's got 71 on the season. And then you've got Will Anderson Jr. And this guy, honestly, I think he should be in the Heisman talks right now. 67 total tackles, 35 solo tackles, 12 sacks. This guy's a linebacker. 71 sacks yards on those, 2 pass deflections, and he's got, I think, 21 tackles for loss. This dude's just a tank. He's going to be all over the field making plays for Alabama. And the thing is, Arkansas is going to have to be able to get guys open the middle, because not only do you have Toto Anderson, you're going to have Christian Harris additionally. Drew Sanders going to get some playing time there. Dallas Turner, the other linebackers for Alabama. This is a tough 3-4 defensive set that Alabama is going to face up. They've got guys across the defensive line. DJ Dale, the nose tackle, he'll have a plenty job against Ricky Stromberg. And then their secondary is just full of studs, Jordan Battle being one of those. Alabama this season, total, they have given up 290 yards, 206.8 in the air, and 83.5 on the ground. So that's why Arkansas has to establish a rushing game, because Arkansas is averaging 151 rushing yards per game. Now the Hogs defense gives up more points and also scores a little bit less than Alabama in terms of yards. They have 40 less yards per game, and our defense gives up about 60 more. So yeah. Now, Alabama's defense last year gave like single digits, and this year teams are scoring them a lot easier. 18.2 points allowed per game, scoring 44.6, though, as the Tide have a really good offense. Arkansas hasn't beat Alabama in 13 years, dating back to 2007, technically was vacated, so you go to 2006, and Arkansas ended up winning that game. The Hogs just have had their number against the Tide and haven't won at Bryant-Denny since 2003. Like, it has been a long time coming for the Hogs against this team. Now, getting into the spread here, Arkansas is 21-point underdogs, the money line being plus 900, and then over-under 58.5.
It's time for Sam's prediction.
Now, my prediction for this game is I think Alabama wins 42-20. I do see Alabama being able to shut down the Arkansas run game and then score on the secondary, which is my biggest concern. Bryce Young having 33 touchdowns on the season is a concerning number. However, that being said, there's a path that Arkansas can win this game. This Alabama team hasn't been like one of the unbeatable ones in the past, so I understand the optimism there, but Alabama, really tough team. If Arkansas wants to have any chance of getting the upset as 3-point underdogs, they have to be able to run the ball effectively. They got to use Traylon Smith, Raheem Sanders, Dominique Johnson, one of those three guys, or even 2 out of 3 of those, to establish a rushing game on the ground. Design quarterback runs for KJ Jefferson to trick out the linebackers. With how Bama runs 3-4, 4-3 sets, there's going to be a spy on Jefferson, and Jefferson has to be able to run through contact through those. And then overall, get the ball to 16. Anytime you get the ball to Burks, it's going to go well. Arkansas additionally having to play clean on special teams. I'm not worried about the kicking game with Little, but punting and formations can sometimes trick up the Razorbacks. I do hope the Hogs get the upset victory, though. Now on Monday, I'll be previewing the Hall of Fame Classic, where Arkansas will take on Kansas State that night, and then they'll play the winner of the Cincinnati-Illinois game on Tuesday, and then I'll also have on Monday the recap of the Alabama game, so I'm going to have a double feature episodes out on Monday, and then I'll have the Mizzou preview out next week as well. But signing off for now, y'all know the deal. Woo pig suey.
That's all for today's episode of All Hog Sports with Sam Stimson. Make sure to stay tuned for the next episode covering all Arkansas Razorback sports. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media too. On Twitter and Instagram at All Hog Sports Pod. Like on Facebook at All Hog Sports and Arkansas Razorbacks Podcast. And on YouTube at that same name. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Go Hogs!